Hi, friends. This is Stephen Kelly, aka Bald Beastie, the mechanics guy here for 13th Moon Games. Just wanted to talk about crafting magic items and all that such in Coven Crucible. All right, this is also a really big part of how the game is played, what things you can encounter in the game, what things you can create. For those people who love to play uh, blacksmiths or alchemists or things like that, this is the guide for you. And this is going to go through and explain how to uh, utilize those skills and what skills to utilize, sub skills, for making magic items, potions, magical tattoos, all that stuff. Okay, so let's dive right in. All right, this is assuming that you've already either read the core rulebook and or have watched some of the previous videos on spellcasting and mechanics, so you understand how to generate a target number, you understand how to generate a level of difficulty, and what difficulty rating is, all of that stuff. You can hear my dog barking in the background. Um, the crafting guide, magic items. A magic item is related to any item created with magic. Oh, and I know I talk fast. I get excited. So again, if I say something too fast and you miss it, leave a comment below, and I'll do my best to answer it. Okay? I'm excited. I'm like a giant golden retriever in human form. So here we go. Magic item refers to any item created with magic, a magical subskill that offers a positive or sometimes negative modifier to a character's action or an item that generates a specific magical effect. All right. Anything that meets that criteria, whether it's a magical staff, magical tattoo, or grimoire found in an old abandoned house. Most of the magic items found in the world are ones that are created, but that doesn't mean the character has to be the one to have created them. They can be found, purchased, or traded. Forging. This is the forging subskill. This is the biggest. This is where all the big magic items come from, like magic rings, magic stabs, anything like that. The power of the item is utterly dependent on the forger. A single enchantment's modifier cannot exceed the forger's modified level of success for forging. So if I have a level of success of 13 in forging, that means a single enchantment the enchantment level cannot exceed 13. I'm going to explain all of that below. Okay. Now, that said, you can place numerous enchantments on an item. The number of enchantments you can place on an item is equal to your level of your magic attribute. So if you have a magic attribute of 7, you can place 7 enchantments on an item. A single enchantment can have multiple effects in that enchantment, and I'll discuss that lower. But you cannot have more than 7 enchantments. That's a pretty powerful magic item, considering that if your level of success is 13 for forging, and you create a magic item that has 7 enchantments, that's 91 levels of enchantment, which would mean somebody trying to suspend or suppress the magical effect of that magic item would have a negative 91 to their target number. Also, that would be considered a supremely powerful magic item and take a pretty long time to do. All right. When forging enchantment, you must have at least one level of the subskill or trait that the item is meant to affect, or you must have help from another NPC with that subskill. Familiars cannot provide that aid, but other witches can turn to demons for it, or you can turn to demons for it. However, if you have the Forge Master trait, you can forge an item with any subskill or mundane trait without having any levels in them. Does not include uncommon traits usually attributed to magical or supernatural creatures. Those have to be reverse engineered. Magic items and materia magica can be destroyed in a type of reverse engineering to learn the enchantments or traits from the item, meaning that you can either forge items with those traits or spend experience points to add them to your character if applicable. In order to reverse engineer a magic item or materia magica, you need to have at least one of the following subskills: science, crafting, mechanics, or salvage. So a pair of boots that would allow flight could be destroyed by a forger who could then learn the enchantment for future forgings, provided you meet the subskill requirement. Or you could learn flight for yourself. Forger could also write that enchantment into a grimoire for other witches to benefit from. Once you reverse engineer a trait, you have it. You have access to it. Okay, you may not be able to necessarily access it by yourself unless you spend XP on it, which is described in the core book. But you could have access to either create an item with it, You don't have to keep reverse engineering items. Once you know it, you know it. Okay? All right, if done during a downtime action, you can reverse engineer a number of items equal to the subskill prerequisite you choose, science, crafting, mechanics, or salvage. The Forge Master trait does not double this amount, whereas the Forge Master trait would double the amount of enchantments you can apply in a single downtime action. All right. If done during a scene, it requires a full hour and a successful forging roll. All right, to reverse engineer an item. If done during a downtime, again, no roll is necessary. You can do a number of items equal to the level of the subskill. All right, to simply destroy a magic item without learning its enchantments, it requires a number of successful forging rolls equal to the level of success used by the witch who forged the item. And each forging roll takes a round. So in other words, at this point, if you are just destroying it, you don't look at the enchantment level, you just look at the level of success of the forger. So in the example we used above, 13 levels would that'd be the level of success. So that means you would need to have 13 consecutive successful forging rolls in order to just destroy it. 5 enchantments currently available when crafting magic items. And I'm going to explain them, but you can read in the core book what the examples are. And it gives a pretty clear-cut example of what those are and how to generate them. Enchantments that provide a positive or negative modifier to the target number or of a subskill. Okay, that's the most common enchantment item, like a gun that provides plus 12 to your range target number. All right. This can be combined with enchantment 2, 3, or 5, and or 5 below. Okay, so you can combine uh, these modifiers up to your enchantment level, which is your level of success for that single enchantment, with the various enchantments below. So enchantments that provide a positive or negative modifier to the target number of a subskill. Enchantments that provide levels of a trait. Okay, those are traits you can have, because you can have a mundane version of the trait, and you can also then have a magical version of the trait. But there's very specific what traits cannot be reproduced with magic. It explains it down here. Enchantments that provide levels of a subskill. Enchantments that cast a spell on the user or wearer. And enchantments that transform the item. Okay, so if you wanted to make a single enchantment on an item, and you wanted to make, say, a ring that transformed into a knife, and you wanted to have it be really good at uh, attacking and doing damage. So what you could do is you could enchantments that provide a positive negative modifier to the target number of a subskill. So you wanted to add to your melee. All right, you could have, and your level S is 13. So that means you could combine. You want to transform the item. Okay, so you're gonna make a dagger, but you want to ring a dagger, which would be a ring is like a size 0 item, right? But you want the dagger to do a damage as if it were a large item. So it would be transforming it from a ring to a dagger at the command of the wielder is 1, right? And then, because it's size 0 to size 1, and then you want it to do damage as a large weapon, that would be size 1 to size 3, which is large. That would then be a plus 3 modifier. So you got that plus 3 there, all right? That leaves you 10 left, all right? And then you want levels of a trait. Let's say you want it to be, your attacks to be quiet so they don't cause any noise. You could give it the stealthy trait at level 3. All right, so that's 3 more, so that's 6. And that leaves you with 7 levels you can then put as a plus 7 to melee. So then you have a dagger that's just normally a ring, doesn't ping as a dagger at all, but then you can instantly have the person summon it into a dagger at a thought, and then that dagger would then get to add plus 7 to the target number of their melee subskill for their attacks, and then any attack they make with it is quiet. Pretty cool. So that's how those work. Okay. Enchantments that provide levels of a trait, obviously, that's pretty self-explanatory. Positive numbers, negative numbers to target numbers, that's explanatory. Levels of a subskill. This cannot be combined with any other enchantment. Essentially, what you would do is you would grant levels of a subskill that you may not possess. Or if you do possess it, you can choose to either use your subskill or it's the magic item subskill. So let's say with a LOS of 13, um, and these enchantments here, they cost twice the levels that they grant as enchantment modifier or forging requirements. So if I wanted to create a dagger that gave me +6, that would give me melee 6, that would cost 12 levels of enchantment, right? If I had an LS of 13, that's all I could do with that single enchantment. All right. Obviously, you cannot go over cap, so the highest is would be 14. If you had an LOS of 16 with forging, you still could only give them 7 levels of that trait. All right. Whereas all these other ones here, it's a one-for-one basis, like we said. So a +7 to melee would be 7 levels of enchantment. A level 3 trait would be 3 levels of enchantment. And as long as those levels of that enchantment does not exceed your LOS, it's viable, and as long as it meets the requirement of these up here, what they can be combined with. Enchantments that cast a spell on the user. Um, so these would be uh, um, basically a one-for-one basis, and they generally only function once per scene. Okay, but you set a trigger for a spell, and the spell, the modifier is whatever your LOS is up to your LOS. So if I wanted to say I have a wristband that if I reach zero health level, if I'm reaching 0 health levels, then this effect triggers, which will then heal me up to 13 levels of health. So it would only happen once per scene, but hey, you get knocked down to 0 health, and then that wristband kicks in, casts healing on you. You heal 13 levels. As soon as that happens, you never go unconscious. Okay, so then you are back up to back up to 13 levels of health, whatever your health was before, um, and that's pretty beneficial. But again, it only functions once per scene. Okay, um, and then the requirements. Item being forged, whether in downtime or side scene, is not complete until you say so. So you can enchant it with a single enchantment, and then you can say I'm done with this, and that's it, and it's done. You cannot enchant it further. Um, you can continue on enchanting an item. You cannot use the item as it's intended until the forger completes the item. So if you want to have 7 enchantments on that item, each of them at your maximum LOS, you can't use it until you're completed with it. But then once you are completed with it, then and there's no time limit. You can keep working on it as long as you want until it is complete. All right. So you could again listed the number of enchantments you could do on an item. Forging materials. A magic item will hold all its enchantments forever until it is physically broken or destroyed. So making an element of wood will hold those enchantments until someone breaks it over their knee. Certain material magic can be used to add to the forging target number if it's in a side scene or a game session, or reduce the number of successes needed down to a minimum of 1 based on the type of on the modifier for the type of material magic. But that choice must be made when it's consumed. There's also no limit to the number of material magic that can be used, only if they coincide with the forging subskill. Okay. So a wristband that heals and grants positive modifier to arm is listed above. A forger could use 7 Roman glass, where 6 of them reduce the number of successes needed to 1, and 7th add +3 to the forger's target number. A thought occurs to me that I didn't mention that before. Okay. Um, when you are rolling to make it, when you're making an item uh, in a uh, in a scene, a side scene, or at game, it requires a number of rolls equal to um, the level of success that you are enchanting it with. So if you not the number of enchantments, but the level of success that you are creating it with. So let's say you are creating an item with a 13 level of success. All right. Um, the first enchantment you cast, that's going to be the successful cast at level 13 LOS. It's going to take 13 hours, 1 hour per successful roll, and 13 successful rolls at 13 hours. You can reduce that with Materia Magica. Okay, so like the one they were talking about here, um, with the wristband that healed, and added a positive 7 to the target would require a forging requirement of 17 successes total. Okay, each roll takes 1 hour of work, right? So that means that would take 17 hours for this item right here, because you're adding all of the enchantments together at the levels of success that you were doing it. So creating that 17 success uh, uh, item would take each roll takes 1 hour work, 17 hours, and 17 successful rolls. But then using Materia Magica can reduce that. They're by their level. So if you use 7 Roman glass, 6 of them, that's 18. Each one is a +3, so that's 18. Reduces it to 1 hour, and then the 7th would add +3 to the fortress target number for one of the rolls, or for the only roll that would be remaining, because it has to reduce the minimum of 1 hour. Okay, I hope I didn't confuse you more with that, but let's move on. You can put spirits and ghosts and things into items or demons. It's generally frowned upon in Witch Society to do so. You'd have to come up with a contract between all those items to do so, but otherwise it's possible. You cannot put a spirit, ghost, or as other entity into an item, and then that either bears an enchantment or then future enchanting it. So it's a mundane. It has to be a mundane item, and it cannot be enchanted after it is possessed. After it is a creature is bound into that. So a ghost or spirit is bound into an item. You can't then enchant it. Okay. Likewise, you can't, if you have a magic item, you can't bind a demon, ghost, or spirit to that item. Okay. Moving on, notes on armor and weapon enchantments. Armor and weapons can be enchanted to be as a higher level than they are. So you can enchant your clothes to be heavy armor, but they'd be considered heavy armor, but they're not with the weight or bulkiness of those items. Okay. Or a small weapon could be considered a large weapon, like we talked about earlier. Alchemy. A potion is a consumable item that can come from almost any form: edible, gummy bear, perfume, shot, brownie, anything. Grants a magical effect that lasts for a single scene or hour. Potions last until consumed, or for a year and a day, whichever comes first. Alchemists can make potions with any number of enchantments as long as the total levels of all traits or modifiers is less than or equal to their modified level of success with alchemy. So a witch with alchemy 7 and a familiar can make a potion with a +10 modifier, or a potion with 3 traits at level 3. Okay? You can create potions either in downtime, no roll required, or a scene, roll required. In downtime, you can make 1 potion per level of the alchemist's modified level of success per downtime action. If you have the Potion Master trait, that's doubled. So Witch, with the above example, can create 10 potions with a single downtime action, or 20 if they have the Potion Master trait. That's a lot of potions. In a scene, you can make a single potion in a scene or an hour. This time can be reduced to 1 minute per total levels of all traits modifiers of the potion. So a +10 potion takes 10 minutes if you use the appropriate Materia Magica. If you possess the Potion Master trait, it takes as if they had used the appropriate Materia Magica, and they can create 2 potions in that time rather than 1. So an alchemist with the Potion Master trait doesn't need Materia Magica and can create 2 +10 potions in 10 minutes. If you actually use the appropriate Materia Magica and have the Potion Master trait, then that time is further reduced to 1 round per total levels of the traits modifiers of the potion. So a +10 potion takes 10 rounds, and there will be 2 potions at the end of that time. A round is 6 seconds, so that basically takes 1 minute to make 2 +10 potions. It only requires 1 roll at the end of that time, and if that roll fails, the ingredients in Materia Magica are lost, and there is no potion. That said, the potions do not need to be the same. You can have 2 different potions. All right. The following enchantments can be put into a potion. These are the general guidelines. Other things can happen as well. Enchantments provide a positive or negative modifier to the target number of a subskill. Just like a magic item, you want to add +7 to someone's unarmed or something. Enchantments that provide levels of a trait. With few restrictions, you can provide, just like in forging, there are restrictions on what traits can be provided with a trait with this, but you can give someone a potion that gives them the appearance attractive for an hour or something like that. Okay. You can also have other effects, like if you want to create a healing potion, Those things all are based on level of success of the alchemist, not the spellcaster. However, keeping in mind with these potions that grant positive or negative modifiers, they cannot you cannot have more than one magical modifier to a target number. Okay. Um, some things too, like you want to create healing potions. It's not mentioned here, but you can. At storyteller's discretion, the storyteller can say yes or no. But that's why we left those kind of open if you don't want there to be a lot of magical potions, because obviously with somebody who is specialized in alchemy, it's going to be really good at making a ton of healing potions for really well, for all a lot. So they could walk around with 20 or 30 healing potions that all heal like 16 levels. That's something. Okay. Magical tattoos. They can only be done by witches who specialize in them using special tools. Magical tattoos are a function like magic items, except they are on your skin, and they generate special effects just like magic items would, but they are constant. As long as they are unmarred, then they function normally. So, if you have a magical tattoo and somebody gouges it with a knife, that breaks the magic of it, and then it can't be retouched. Has to be a whole new tattoo has to be made. Okay. It can be redone over the same spot exactly as it was before, but the whole thing has to be redone. It can't just take like a little bit of time. It's the whole thing has to be redone. Uh, Magical tattoos don't have to be in areas they cover. All right. Some witches go with discreet hidden ink. Others option for flashy, obvious tattoos. Um, you would need to roll your occult eyes to recognize a magical tattoo or from a mundane one. If it's damaged, it'll stop working. It cannot be touched up. Like we said before, it has to be redone. They are able to make magical tattoos that essentially function as worn or wielded magical items. The level of the trait indicates how many tattoos they can create in a single downtime action in a single quantity of dragon's blood. The tattoo can have multiple enchantments, but the total level of enchantments it possesses cannot exceed the greater of the artist's modified level of success, or either the drawing for either drawing or occult. Like with forging, they cannot replicate traits that grant subskill levels, reduce XP costs, require downtime actions, have prerequisites, or are house specific. For example, an artist with modified drawing LOS of 11 could ink a magical tattoo with sturdy, healthy, and endurance 5. Okay. What they can do is they can provide positive, negative modifiers to a target number, provide levels of a trait. That's it. Okay. So they can, it would be +5 to endurance rolls, I should say. Uh, you do not need to have levels in the subskill like with alchemy, but you have to have knowledge of existence. So you could learn um, a supernatural creature trait like flight and then tattoo it, but you'd have to learn that first. You wouldn't necessarily just be able to, do it on your own. All right, grimoires, last touch, and we're running up on the 25-minute mark here. So grimoires are books of spells and enchantments. All right, they can include formula for uh, supernatural creature traits, regular traits, um, or they can incorporate an enchantment that would grant a bonus for a particular subskill. Okay, they can have a modifier of any particular subskill, but no higher than 7. Um, but they can have they can have modifiers to multiple subskills up to 7 each. So you could have a grimoire that has +7 to each of the 7 magical subskills. But to be pretty powerful grimoire. All right. The bonus from a grimoire is considered mundane, even though the grimoire itself is magical. But it is obviously you have to have the grimoire out and open, or using the grimoire to get its benefit. So it's whatever you're doing, if you're casting a spell with a grimoire, then it is obvious. Okay, you can create a grimoire. You must have a magic attribute of 3 or higher. You can create the grimoire to benefit any subskill, but they do need to have a level in that subskill in order to make that grimoire, or they have to have the knowledge of this supernatural creature trait. Okay, they can only be created in downtime and only include a number of positive modifiers or levels of the traits equal to the level of success of the witch's writing subskill with a minimum of 1. So if a witch has 7 levels of success in writing, they can create a grimoire in 1 downtime action that will grant a total of modifiers equal to 7, which could then be applied to a single subskill or multiple subskills or traits. Okay. And again, there's a big list. You can read the list of magic items in the core rulebook. And again, I know I talk fast, so I hope I didn't confuse you. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to post them in the comments below. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.